Talk and scroll. Talk and scroll. Talk and scroll.
But it's important to point out that the only outcome that's left is money. It's punitive damages. That's the only outcome that's left because jail is out of the window, prison is out of the window. Hey, what's going on? This is TNS Time and Space, and I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Talk and Scroll. Before we begin, I would invite you to like, comment, and subscribe, and make sure you hit that bell notification so you can be made aware of any time that I post new content. But anyway, now that the housekeeping is done, right now, I am going to discuss a particular comment in regards to the Deshaun Watson case. This person had some interesting nuggets. I wanted to read their comment and respond to some particular items. So this person says, I will say, however, that there are an awful lot of reasons to believe that Deshaun was very much in the wrong here. So I want to take it piece by piece. The only reasons to believe that are because of the number of allegations. I've yet to hear any non-emotional arguments about why Deshaun Watson should be suspended or why he should be held civilly liable. Essentially, I've heard where there's smoke, there's fire, and that's about it. That's literally what I've heard. So this person says, and he absolutely deserves a significant suspension as well. By significant, I am saying at least this season. So in regards to that, that has to do with the court of public opinion. That's the only reason I can think of, because when you examine the evidence, 2 grand juries declined to bring criminal charges. That's a grand jury. Their primary focus or their primary function is to determine whether or not there's enough evidence to go to trial. It's not even to determine innocence or guilt. It's to say whether or not this should even proceed forward, whether or not it's even worth a trial. And 2 grand juries determined that it's not even worth a criminal trial. So moving forward, they said to hire 66 different massage therapists in 17 months. So I want to talk about that part. People have been taking that and running with it. I've seen a lot of people misquote that to say, oh, well, he forced 66 massage therapists to give him a happy ending. So they completely misread the headline. Just because he worked with that many massage therapists, that may seem odd and strange to you. However, this is a person with access. So plenty of men utilize massage parlors. Some may be, upstanding like Massage Envy. Some maybe not so much. They may be the spa that with the flashing lights that says open for business or whatever the case may be. For whatever reason, people do utilize these. If you want to get on a moral high horse and say that you never would, that's fine. But the ruling is not about your moral standing. It's not about your particular value system. But I see that in the court of public opinion. I see a lot of people virtue signaling. And I've said that in all of the videos about Deshaun Watson that I've made. So continuing on. And to have as many as 30 that have either filed lawsuits or considered doing so with claims of sexual misconduct against Watson, I feel like it's clear that something very wrong was indeed happening. What about the flip side? What about the idea that if one person wanted to pursue a civil settlement, which ultimately that means money, by the way. I think it's important to point out, I don't mean to get off on a tangent, but it's important to point out that the only outcome that's left is money. It's punitive damages. That's the only outcome that's left because jail is out of the window. Prison is out of the window. As soon as the grand juries decided not to pursue criminal charges, the attorney, Tony Busby, who's representing the accusers, his primary focus then became settlement, which it's always been his focus, by the way. And another point that people don't mention is that in the opening statement, and I said this in my previous video, Tony Busby said that this case is about female empowerment. So think about that for a second. A person's guilt or innocence shouldn't depend on an agenda. So moving on though. So they say, I think it's clear that something very wrong was indeed happening. That's the assumption due to the number of accusers. I just have a hard time believing there would be that much smoke without any fire at all. Apparently, this person has never heard of a smoke machine. You see them in movies all the time where there's smoke in a movie. It amazes me that that's beyond the realm of possibility, or that no one considers that idea, that maybe it was women who had utilized massage services, or not utilized, provided massage services to Deshaun Watson. It's the equivalent of a commercial that says you may be entitled to compensation. I said this in my previous video. So I don't know why the idea of believe all women is so prevalent. So this person then gives away their bias. As a girl dad with a granddaughter, I'm going to stop right there. As a girl dad with a granddaughter, that to me is a mistake right off the bat if you're utilizing that as part of your logic or as part of your judgment. That should not matter if you're looking at things objectively. So this person says they're a girl dad with a granddaughter. That has nothing to do with the grand jury's decision. I'm sure that there were people in the grand jury who have children, who have daughters. There were women. Whatever the case may be, it's held in private so that it's not swayed by public opinion. Point being, that should not be a factor if you're looking at things objectively. If you want to say that you're looking at them subjectively, then just admit your bias. And that's fair. I can only imagine how this would make me feel. Again, there's that word, feeling, how it would make you feel if my daughter was involved in this. Yes, I'm sure it would evoke feeling, but our legal system is not based on appeals to emotion. And that's all I've heard this entire time. During this entire Deshaun Watson saga, I've heard appeals to emotion. I've heard media people or persons or journalists. I've seen media personalities say, well, I have daughters, i.e. virtue signaling. How can you support Deshaun Watson if you have daughters? That's an appeal to emotion. So this says grand jury indictment or not. So immediately you're dismissing the facts in favor of emotion. Grand jury indictment or not. Automatically that undermines your credibility. I feel like anyone whose family member went through something like this would want more justice than 6 to 8 games. So that's what you would want because of your feeling. Our legal system is not determined by a popular vote. I can't say that enough. Our legal system, our justice system, whether it's Deshaun Watson or whoever else, even if it was this commenter, not because he's famous, not because he can run or throw, whether it was a man, whether it was a woman, no matter who it is, it should not be determined. That person's guilt or innocence should not be determined by what family members feel should be the case. That I feel like anyone whose family member went through this would want more justice than 6 to 8 games. Why is it that the NFL's personal conduct policy should be determined by a popular vote? That's another question I have. If the NFL wants to issue a suspension, that's fine, but it shouldn't be because of the public. It should not be because of the public. It should be from the facts of the investigation. And to have to pay an undisclosed amount of money in exchange for silence henceforth. So first of all, it takes two to settle. This, kills me to no end that people won't recognize that there's two sides to a settlement. It's one thing for Deshaun Watson and his attorney to offer a settlement, but the 20 women had to accept the settlement. You notice 4 didn't. Now, I believe that Deshaun Watson, he may have done something that was unfavorable, but we have to go by the evidence. I don't believe that he's 100% innocent, but I also don't believe that he's 100% guilty. I'm not going to say believe all women. I'm going to look at the facts that are presented as they come out, and I'll certainly change my view as things evolve. So far, they have not evolved. I've heard a whole lot about how the new accusers are strikingly similar, quote unquote, to the previous accusers. And if that amounted to 2 grand juries declining to bring an indictment, then what will more accusers who are strikingly similar, what will they do? How will that move the needle? So anyway, having just received a $230 million guaranteed contract from the Browns, it's a small price to pay. A small price to pay for what? The court of public opinion? Because it's not the facts. Ultimately, it's the feelings of those who are girl dads with granddaughters and daughters and wives and sisters and mothers. That's not how justice should be determined. This should not be about female empowerment. You know, this case is not men versus women. This is Deshaun Watson and those particular accusers. This is not men versus women. And as men, I don't believe that you have to automatically side with the accusers just to show that you're enlightened or empathetic or whatever the case may be. Just my opinion. It is just that, to which you are entitled to, but it is an opinion. He should lose another season to it at least. To satisfy who, though? Who is it that they're trying to satisfy? See, this should not be a matter of publicity. And you have to ask yourself, what if it were you? What if it were you and you were adamant about your innocence? I also want to double back, though, because I don't believe that settlements are necessarily an admission of guilt, because you have to figure that even if Deshaun Watson were 100% innocent, there's still a jury in a civil trial. So if the jury feels like this particular commenter, then where does that leave him? And we know that the ultimate outcome is money. We know that it's money. So perhaps he pays a smaller amount now because he doesn't want to risk the fact that all you have to have is a 51% chance, or for the jury to believe that there's a 51% chance that these things happened. And then you have to pay a lot. So to me, it's not a matter of innocence or guilt. It's a practical matter. It's also the matter of mounting legal fees. Yes, I know that Deshaun Watson said that he wouldn't settle, but things evolve, situations evolve. And it probably came to a point to where it's like, do you want this to drag out to where this is cutting into my window to earn as a professional football player? As this commenter said, he has $230 million guaranteed. I'm sure he just wants to get on with his career. Now, people laughed and were short-sighted when I mentioned that in particular, comment sections or what have you. They said, you think he's going to see the field? Yeah, eventually. It may be 6 games, it may be 8 games, it may be a season, whatever. But Deshaun Watson has a small window as a professional football player to earn at an elite level. So yes, I would want to get it over with too. Even if I'm completely innocent, or even if I believe that I'm completely innocent, yes, I would want to get it over with. It's not necessarily an admission of guilt. Just like the accusers, they're basically saying that they're willing to accept this monetary amount. They have to accept it as far as their silence. It's not like they're being persecuted and forced into silence. If they want to be heard that much, then those 20 women could have turned down the settlement if it was just about justice. But I guarantee you that Tony Busby, the attorney for the accusers, he is more than happy to get his piece of 20 settlements. And he looks forward to getting his piece of 4 more settlements because it's about female empowerment. So those are my thoughts on it. I just wanted to talk about this particular comment. I thought it was interesting. This has been another episode of Talk and Scroll. Y'all take it easy.